I've recently started a sign-up list for my comic Ominus Avenging Death, and while some of you know about my book and may know that I do comic book art, not everyone will know what this comic is all about. In this video, I'll answer the question, what is Ominus Avenging Death, and give you some information about the campaign, so please bear with me. The story of Ominus Avenging Death is very simple. It's a fight scene. It's a big 10-page fight scene between the hero Zadok, pronounced Zadok, and the monstrous villain Deathmonger. This story takes place in the Graveyard Gorge, and the purpose of the book is to serve as an introduction to the world of Ominus and the artwork that you can expect from me, Elliot Rodriguez. I'm still a few months away from finishing the first graphic novel for Ominus, so I thought that in the meantime I could entertain you fine people with an awesome fight scene similar to what you would see within the pages of an Ominus graphic novel. While the events in the book are not canon to the story of Ominus, I do feel that it's a great way to introduce to you the kind of work I plan to do with this IP. You can think of this book as a Marvel what-if story from back in the day. It's a one-and-done short story. The real story starts with Ominus #1. Now, while the book of Ominus Avenging Death is done, I did decide, however, to redo the writing and the lettering to make it much better. I heard the voices of the many backers with regards to some of the flaws of the book, and I was compelled to make the much needed adjustments and add a few extras, making the book of Ominus Avenging Death a sweet premium collector's item. This book will include lots of extras like concept art, character bios, and an art gallery of some pinups and fan art. There's also going to be a world map where you can see where the events of this book take place. Including the short 10-page story, this book will have a total of 36 pages of content with a possibility of more depending on the campaign's performance. And when it launches, you'll be able to get yourself a copy of the book for just $10. I repeat, $10. Now, if you think that's a great deal for a crowd-funded indie comic, then get a load of this. People who sign up for the book will get an amazing 2 books for the price of 1 deal. I repeat, you'll get 2 books for the price of 1. This is only valid on launch day, however, which is on June 26th. So mark your calendars, people. And that's pretty much it. That's what this comic and the campaign are all about. I hope the artwork you've seen in the video and this incredible sales pitch was enough to get you excited about Ominus Avenging Death. Sign up today. The link is in the description below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a great one. Bam. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to today's episode. I'm very sorry for the delay, but I'm always late for my own show, so that's kind of how it goes. You're going to have to excuse me. I'm a little bit under the weather today. I'm going to try to talk as less as I can, as not as much as I possibly. I'm going to try to talk not that much. Hopefully you guys can hear me out there. So I have a great guest on today. Second appearance on the show. I'm excited for that. And today we're going to talk about something really cool, monumental, huge news that can change the way we do things here. So which is great. I'm excited about it. I want to ask a lot of questions and see how this, because I think this can possibly affect my campaign also. I could be adding extra tiers and whatnot to my campaign. I'm pretty sure it will, but I just wanted to ask a few questions to get to fully understand everything going on with this campaign. But yeah. So let's get right into it. Today, as you can see in my thumbnail, my guest is the awesome Pete Simeti. We're going to have him on in just a second. And just to share a little bit about my campaign. The launch date for mine remains the same. It's on, I hate having to share this stuff. So crazy. Yeah, but the launch date for my campaign is on June 26th on this channel on Thursday. So a few Thursdays from now, we're going to be launching the campaign. And cover A has been revealed. Cover C has been revealed. I'm working on cover B at the moment, but we'll I'll get that done. So please sign up for the campaign. If you sign up, you'll be able to get 2 awesome deals. The first one is this 2 books for the price of 1. And then the second deal is 3 books for the price of 2. If you want to collect all 3 covers, you can get that with this incredible deal. These deals are only available for the people that sign up. So please be sure to sign up for the Ominus newsletter. The information is pinned in the chat, so please be sure to take a look at that. And yeah, sign up. Please sign up. Don't forget to sign up. And that's it. Let's not take any more time away from the big topic at hand. If I could just find a second to yeah, here we go. All right, so without any further ado, let's welcome our guest for today. Our guest is the incredible Pete Simeti. Please, a round of applause for Pete. Hey, what's going on, Pete?
Hey, how's it going, Elliot?
Good, man. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me good?
Oh yeah, you're coming in kind of loud, at least for me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Awesome. But yeah, so how you been doing, man? How's are things going in your neck of the woods?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited because the printer, the standard comic printer, because we hit that $5,000 mini goal the other day, that arrived minutes before the show. So I'm glad it arrived
before this one.
Show. Yeah, I'm glad it arrived before the show and not during the show because they just left it outside.
Oh.
And we might be getting rain today. So I had to haul up this like heavy printer up 3 flights of stairs. But, that's fine. It's part of the job. But, I'm lucky that it arrived before. So once the show ends, I'm going to have fun opening it up, tinkering. I'll be tinkering for a week or so, in the privacy of my own home. And, we'll get the settings right and get things up and running. I'm looking forward to having a full size because I have mini comic prototypes to show and not on a good printer, on like an okay printer. But this is a great printer. And I'm going to have both a full size and a mini to show. But I'm really looking forward to having the full size comic to show.
Nice. And when you say printer, like something like you buy at a store, or is this like a specially made printer?
My lips are sealed.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I used to be more prone to sharing everything that I did and used, but then people started contacting those individuals or those companies and getting trouble for me. In some cases, like 2 different printers, because again, I used to be very open to sharing who we use for printing. Both of those printers, I had to have a talking to them because they were like, we got a call this morning from someone that said this and this about you and your company, and it's all Twitter, social media, comic industry nonsense. And, I've had comic shops have that same conversation with me. I've had printers, I've had different suppliers, people just try to cut you at the knees. So I don't, unfortunately, share any of that information anymore. Even the guys at Alterna that I publish, they don't even know who I use anymore or what any of this equipment specifically is. I'll say it's a printer. It'll print a great comic.
Nice. So and that's all that matters. Yeah, that's all that matters. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I was more thinking about like the laws, like you would give this information away and then someone would come and like undercut you or try to get it at a lower price or try to, because that can also be.
Yeah, and I mean that's a little annoying when someone, and it happened before all the time when people were like, who are you using for a newsprint printer?
Yeah.
And especially there was a turning point around like 2019 when one of the printers, they just dropped us. They didn't want to work with us anymore because they had so many issues getting these right. They were used to printing grocery store flyers and things that didn't matter. And I'm like, these are always having some kind of weird damage. Like sometimes 30% of the run was damaged. It was a lot with this specific printer. This was back in like 2018, 2019 when we were using them. And they dropped us. And it was really difficult. I had to spend 3 weeks day in, day out, 10 to 12 hours a day, researching, talking to over 150 printers through phone and email, and trying to find one that we finally found. And so when someone's like, "Can you just share that printer with me?" I'm like, "Man, I went through hell and back
Yeah.
to find this
Yeah.
printer. So no."
Yeah.
But I will tell you that they're in the United States. They exist. If you did the research too, I tell people go find a web press printer, cold set
WordPress.
web press. So I'll say that because that's the technology that's used. But in terms of like the specificity of exactly the company, exactly the printer, then no. But I'm not using a web press cold set. Those things are huge. That I don't have the housing for that. I would need like a warehouse. Those things are
Yeah.
tremendous. You ever see like a video or a movie or a show where it's got like the newspaper press room?
Yeah, and it's running
And
through the
yeah, and they look like they'll eat you alive. Like that's what that machine is, and that's not what I'm using. Some people
Okay.
might think that that's what I'm using, but they're very, very wrong. What I'm using is a workaround to get the same exact kind of results, much slower, because those spit out thousands of copies within like an hour. This will give you 200 copies over like a week or two. So it's much slower, but it'll look better because I can
Yeah.
control the consistency more, and it's not moving as fast. So you're not going to have like misregistration unless you purposefully set it up to be that way. So you're not going to have like that double line kind of thing that can occur with the way that the press is moving so fast, and you have like a 16th of an inch to the left or the right, and
Yeah.
then the line kind of gets blurred. So I won't be having that, and we're going to be using archival ink, so it'll last longer and it won't get on your fingers. With cold set web press, it will. With heat set web press, that's a lot more expensive, but it won't get on your fingers and it'll last longer and things like that. But it's a lot more expensive,
More expensive.
like sometimes 10 times the price.
Wow.
It starts getting less expensive if you print like 20,000 copies of something. Then it turns into like it's a comparable pricing. But they won't even, a lot of the heat set web press people won't even give you a quote if it's under 10,000 copies, which most independent creators are not going to come close to doing.
Yeah, no, because those numbers are out of our league for the
Yeah, cold set, some printers will do like 1,000 to 2,000, and then they'll fire up the machine for you. The pricing will be good, but it won't be great. But the more that you can add on another 1,000 to that run, the better it gets, the cheaper it gets. Like the first 1 to 2,000 are kind of just going to be flatlined where they are. But yeah, this is a whole different thing. So to fully explain it to people, the end result of the product you get, you're going to go, wow, this is fantastic. It's going to look way more commercially printed than you could possibly imagine. And I am using a commercial printer that's local that's helping me with the covers. Like this is a cover stock.
Hold on, let me yeah. Could you show us?
Okay, so these are just mini replicas of King Cryptid number 1 and 2. These are 5 by 7.5. Like this is a full size comic, so you can see I don't have tremendously huge hands. It's just the comic is small. Yeah. And I'm going to be getting the covers done with a local commercial printer that's like an hour away, and they'll get the covers done, and the pricing is all the same. It's built into the pricing that's on the campaign. And then the interiors are on newsprint, so you can see, like, again, this is not a printer that I'm going to be using a much better printer, but these still came out great.
Yeah, that looks fantastic.
Yeah, and this was done on like a 10-year-old inkjet printer at home, just to see, is this even possible? Let me get it in so you can see like see the lettering and see the line work. It's still great. And this stuff won't get on your fingers the way the other stuff will. So, it prints all kinds of different things.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, so there's like one replica I did in color, and then one replica is just all black and white. And that's what I wanted to have to show for the campaign, just as like proof of concept. And they lay flat because, it's newsprint, and also because I'm going to be folding each page individually. Whereas like a digitally printed print-on-demand comic will kind of have that bowing there in the middle.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah,
I
everybody
thought it
hates
was
that.
crazy. I thought it was crazy when I was getting these books. I was like, is it
Yeah.
just me, or like does nobody
No.
remember?
Yeah, so I took
Yeah,
one apart. This is a second printing of King Cryptid #2. So I took it
yeah,
apart to show the printer that it's like, yeah, you can get it to lay flat,
man,
but you have to fold each page separately.
yeah,
You can't take all the pieces of paper and then fold them and then do it. And they do it to save time. I get it. But the end result sucks.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We all hate it. If
You
you do
figure,
conventions,
yeah,
you stack them up, they'll start to cascade and fall
yeah,
unless you alternate them, and then it's so ugly and stupid. And then if you put them in your short box or your long box, they start to you got to
same
alternate
thing.
them again
Mm,
because they start to just the whole box you
yeah,
lose so much space in it. It's just all these simple little things, and then the reading experience is a pain in the butt because if you go to read it, it constantly wants to close on you. It won't lay
yeah,
flat when you read it either. Whereas if you open it, it lays flat when you fold the pages properly. The
yeah,
same thing with the newsprint. Like if you open it, it'll lay flat. But so there's all kinds of problems with it. And that was really something that made me when I got those in. I had such a poor experience dealing with the company because we were going to use them for a lot of other things too. That I wasn't trying to kind of bully them into doing what I wanted to get done. I was just like, heads up, just so you know, because I worked at a print shop. I worked at 3 different print shops. I worked at 2 sign shops, and I worked at a copy center years ago before I started Alterna. So this is over
mm,
20 years ago. And I worked at like the Barnes and Noble Production Center and all these other things. We did all these posters and all these, things that went out to the stores. So I was like, just so you know, you would totally eliminate that bowing there that really occurs that gets on everybody's nerves if you were to just fold the pages first, and you can just get a paper automatic paper folder machine that will do that. And they're costly. Yeah. They're like $2,000 or something. But
well,
if you're going to run like a full-fledged print shop, you should really have that. I'm gonna definitely hope that we could get that. If we hit the $15,000 goal, that'll definitely be something I'm getting because the
yeah.
amount of time it saves
I
and
say,
yeah, what you can do. Otherwise, I'll be getting a manual crease folder just to have as a backup, and those are only like $150. That's not as much as like a $2,000 one, but that'll probably speed up production time like 3 or 4 times for me. Whereas the automatic paper machine folder, that'll speed it up like 10 to 20 times. So,
nice.
I'm trying to let them know to be like, hey, heads up, because I want to help you guys out in case you weren't aware that there is a way to get around that. And they were like, it's impossible. It's impossible. You can't do that. Nobody can
They
do
don't
that.
want to do it.
And I was like,
That's the thing. Yeah,
so that really pissed me off
yeah, yeah.
when they said that. I was like, it's impossible. So that's when I took apart a book and I was like, look, wise ass, it's not impossible. You just got to spend the extra 10 to 20 seconds a book to do it right.
Yeah,
It's one thing for them to say, oh, that's not something we could do right now or whatever. But for them to say, like, that's just flat out impossible. Nobody could do that. This is how it is. This is how every digital print on demand printer is going to do it. Just take it, and it's like, what are you guys talking about?
mm,
So that kind of put me down the path of seeing what I could do in house and kind of getting the gears turning back to when I did work at those print shops. And all I ever heard, and I never tried it until I just got so fired up with this experience with the printer. I never
mm,
tried just seeing if I could print on newsprint from just a regular printer at home. And
yeah.
so I cut up one of our old comics from years ago, and I cut it into like a 5x7, and I put it through the printer, and then it printed. It printed. This is like the first page of King Cryptid #5. It
Yeah.
printed over an old Alterna book, and it did it fine. It just took the page and it just printed. And I was like, well, that's weird because you're not really supposed to be able to do that. That's what I've heard from everybody everywhere. So then I bought a pack of newsprint paper that was relatively the same exact paper weight because it's a very thin paperweight. So you can't put it on like a digital offset or any kind of offset machine that uses multiple rollers because you'll
They'll
destroy
destroy
the
the paper.
paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get paper jams all the time. Like it'll do a
Uh,
little bit, then paper jam, a little bit paper jam. It'll just destroy it. So you
yeah.
can't do that.
Blocks of ink. Yeah.
But so I got a stack of newsprint paper and then I put it through the printer and saw if will it print, and it did. It printed beautifully.
Yeah,
all
that's
this stuff.
great.
And this is my crappy 10-year-old $50 printer. This isn't the good
Man.
printer that we're going to be using, but it still came out great.
Yeah.
Black and white. You can see like the way the newsprint, the mini comic would be. You just like fold it in half, and then you get the way the pages work out and that kind of thing. And then you trim it and all of that. So,
Wow.
then I put through a just to try it out. I ran it on like draft mode just so I didn't use up a ton of ink, and I just printed a bunch of different pages from various Alterna books to make just a proof of concept for me to show, what would it look like. And there was no paper jams, there was nothing. The only thing is obviously the quality of the print in some cases was pretty poor, but that's because it was on draft mode and on like a 10-year-old printer. This wasn't made for quality. This was made to see if I could even do it. So I had printed it out. I trimmed it to size. This cover was just like a poster cover, the same kind of paper stock that we would use for the covers that we have at Alterna. And once I did that and thought, okay, that's really cool, but I have to have a really well-made version. And that's why, for the campaign, and that's why I did King Cryptid 1 and 2 and have those videos on there where I'm flipping through them. And that's what I did to put that together. But I don't have a printer that's capable of doing this to speed. I don't have a printer that's capable of doing this to size. I can only do a mini comic, and it takes maybe like 6 minutes to make one mini comic, and that's not a good enough time. So I had to get a better printer. I had to get the printer that I got in today that can print the large format size to do a full page, big comic, a 6.625 by 10 and a quarter. And they could also do a mini comic size too, but we recently, just last night, hit the second mini goal, so I can purchase a dedicated printer for the mini comics. So this way I can leave the big guy to do the standard books, and I can have the mini comic printer to
With
do
a smaller
minis.
machine.
Yeah, so that helps with production time. If we get over the 15,000, we start having like stretch goals and things like that. I can get like a second big printer. And then eventually there's another stretch goal. I can get a second mini comic printer. So, the more printers that I can add, I can probably only house like 2 or 3 of each. The more that I have, the more that I can cut down on that production time. And obviously the more money we raise, the more that those printers would be needed. So it kind of works out both ways. Because if we reach the 15, those printers will do fine. And that's more than enough money that, like, even if in a year or two, let's say I had to purchase another printer or something, a replacement, whatever it may be, that money's there for that.
I'm sorry. So the 15,000 that you have as the funding goal covers 2 printers, two of the big ones.
Yeah, it covers one of the big ones and one of the minis.
One big, one mini.
But the big one will do the mini and the standard. It's just the mini will only do the mini.
Oh, nice.
So the mini won't take the big sheets of paper. But what's really helping with the covering of the goal is everything else. So it's like the stack cutter, the paper trimmer, the manual creaser, the automatic paper folding machine, all the paper and all the ink, because that adds up. And I want to purchase as much of that, especially the paper. I want to purchase as much of it as I possibly can, so we can really have that pricing stay that way for as long as we possibly can for the foreseeable future, because all these other little costs, they go up. And I want to see about, getting, the whole point of the campaign is to get everything that I need for a year. So shipping boxes, replacement parts, paper, ink, staples don't cost a lot, but I want to get enough staples I don't have to worry about running out of staples, all that kind of stuff. So there's all these little odds and ends that it's not just a printer. Some people might think, oh, you need a printer. But, if you want to just do it at home and you want to like manually, kind of trim it and fold it on your own, and time isn't of the essence, and you just got like 100 copies over a course of a year to print out, like, yeah, you could totally get, especially if you want to make mini comics, you could totally get a really good printer and do a lot of that for maybe $500 and not have to worry about speed, not have to worry about anything. You could just make what you want to make at home and have that stuff for a few years. But if you want to have like for the Alterna runs, I got to print like 300 of each copy of a book. For King Cryptid, I got to print like 500, sometimes to 1,000 of that series. So I need books that, like, I need printers that are going to pop out these books in a much faster rate. So that's why all this stuff is needed, because I'm thinking, kind of like this mini independent print shop that's not commercial on that scale, but is far more efficient than just having something that you would envision, a home printing system to be like. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gotta be on that equivalent. And that's what the campaign is for. And that's why I'm opening it up to other creators too. Because there is going to be a point where, or many different points, where I shut off the print jobs that I take because I've got too much work to do. I can't take a job right now,
Oh,
so
wow.
ordering will be closed. But that's why it's really important to get on this campaign,
When
because
you can. Yeah.
yeah, because you're guaranteeing your spot.
Mm.
So, there isn't like a close down for the people who will purchase a voucher on the campaign. It's like, okay, hey, I got a voucher for $100. I want to make 30 mini comics with 24 pages in them. I'm putting this print run through.
Mm.
So they get to cut the line in terms of that. But later on, there's going to be slow down times where I'm like, well, I've got more than enough to do right now. I'm not printing anything right now, or I've got alternate books to print right now. I don't have the time and space to print everyone else's book right now. So
Nice.
it's kind of like a I don't know. It's difficult to say, because it's not like a print shop is what I'm opening technically. Like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to be a full-time printer, because I still want to make art. I still want to create comics. I still want to, publish alternative stuff. But there's going to be a lot of time where most of the work that's being done is done by the printer.
Mm.
So for the days of the printer printing and me checking on it and everything and doing what I got to do with that, there's more downtime where I can get the things done that I need to get done. So it's not like I'm sitting there idly watching each page come out, as this
Yeah, yeah.
prints for 10 hours a day. And then, then I'm doing nothing but just staring at the printer. The
Yeah.
printer can do what it needs to do. And then when it's done with the pages, then the assembly, I'm more involved with that. So then it would be
Nice.
like me dedicated to a couple of days assembling, putting the books together.
And so this is like a complete overhaul, I'm assuming, for all of the alternative titles. They're all going to be printed in-house now?
Yeah, that's how it would be. And it also changes the dynamic of the scale in which we work. So
Yeah.
before, I would have to think, well, and now even it's changed with the newsprint printer. So now with the newsprint printer, I pretty much have to print 2,000 copies of one book to get the
Mm.
pricing to where it used to be for 500 copies of that one book.
Oh, wow.
So that's not possible. I feel comfortable with most of the titles. We could probably get through 400 to 500 copies over like a year or two. I don't feel comfortable with printing 2,000.
Yeah.
I think maybe King Cryptid can approach selling that many, but all the others, it's like it's going to be an unbelievable amount of waste and storage to have all those excess books that you just don't need.
Yeah.
So you think you're getting a great price because you're like, okay, well, it gets down to this amount, but you're not really getting a great
The
price if
numbers
you
are not
print
there. Mm.
2,000. And let's say it costs you $3,000 to print 2,000 books, but you only really sold 500.
Yeah.
Well, it actually then costs you $3,000 to print 500 books, and
Mm.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a big difference. So if you're selling them at like $2 a pop, and your print cost really is actually $6 a piece because you printed that many, and that's not good. So this enables us to print what we need and a little more, because I wouldn't want to just constantly keep firing up the press again, even though like I could do that. I wouldn't want to do that because it wastes time. It's better to print a little bit more, 20% or so more than what sold or pre-sold, and then get them all together and have them there ready to fill orders fast. So it makes us able to go back to print on books that I'm not going to go back to print on a book for 2,000 copies when I only maybe need 100.
Mm.
So we can just print what we need and then have them back in stock. So any book that I'm able to
Nice.
do that, like we could do that. Like some books you can't because there's the contract isn't there anymore. So it changes the dynamic of how we approach that. It changes the dynamic of like cancellation. Like basically a book at Alterna would only really be canceled if the creator just doesn't want to do it anymore, or if I find that they just don't care to do it anymore. And there's a difference, there's a difference between they don't want to do it, which is like it just doesn't work for them anymore, and like they don't care to do it, which is like, yeah, they'll still do it, but they're really not going to talk about it. They don't really care if anyone reads it. It's kind of like, here, let me just drop off my kid with you, Pete, and you raise them for me. I don't want to do that. I want someone who still is going to care about the book that they made.
Yeah.
But if they sell 100 copies instead of 500, that's fine. And if the readers want it, we can still make it.
Yeah. Were there cases where the printer influenced like the cancellation of a book?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like there were a couple times, because you need to hit certain sales benchmarks to justify that print run. And, there were times where I didn't try to let it influence what happened. And I'm like, well, we'll get there. You just promote it. We'll print 1,000 copies. You only sold like 400. We'll get through the rest of the 600. You just promote it. We'll have an excess stock, and then, take some time. And in 2 or 3 years, you'll have more issues out. You'll have more readers, and that'll work out. And in some cases that was true, but in most cases it wasn't. In most cases, what would happen is that creators kind of go into it expecting to have a hit on their hands immediately. And when they don't, their ego gets really hurt, and they don't want to talk about their book anymore. And now I'm stuck with sometimes thousands of copies when you accumulate what's in a series, and then the creator leaves. And then when the creator leaves, I can't sell the book anymore.
Yeah.
And they don't want the book anymore because they're kind of embarrassed by it. And then I'm stuck with now thousands of copies sitting in a storage unit that I have to pay for just to house books that should probably just get donated or recycled, which is what ends up happening. And it ends up becoming a loss that, when I was publishing like 20 to 30 people at a time, that's a lot of titles, that's a lot of books. And some people I really thought, that they would be here for a long time. So, if they have a series that they're planning for like 10 or 12 issues, you want to have a lot of the number 1, you want to have some of the 2, the 3, the 4, because you want to have those books there for when people are coming on board for issue 8 and want to get a catch up. And you're like, oh, well, I don't have 1 through 7 because we only made to order. And then they go, well, I guess I'm not going to read it. So you want to have a bunch of those, especially the number 1s will always sell because someone's going to try it out, and then they're going to determine if they want to stick with it or not. So I'd be stuck with so many books when someone who's got like an issue 8 that's supposed to come out with us all of a sudden decides, you know what, I don't really want to do this anymore. And then it's like,
that's happened. Yeah, I've seen that.
So part of it's my fault because I structure contracts to be very heavy towards the creator. So the creator gets 80% of whatever profit there is to be had, and they also can leave anytime that they want. And I don't want to lock creators into some devilish contract. So that's why I always structured the contracts that way. But a lot of the times it bit me in the back end because of the fact that people would kind of go, okay, I could just leave when I want, that's it. And sometimes they'd be kind enough to purchase their excess stock, and then sometimes they wouldn't. So in that case, when they didn't want their books at all, I'd be stuck with thousands of books. So
unsellable thousands of books.
Yeah. And just over the past 2 or 3 years, I think I've had to donate and recycle 20 to 30,000 comics between 10 different titles. And that's a lot of books. So with this system, I wouldn't have to do that. With this system, I wouldn't have to worry about damages from the printer because that happens a lot too.
Yeah.
You get a shipment in, the books are damaged. You got to talk to the printer. Hopefully they're good about it.
Or with trimming, trimming, there's also issues like cutting up paper when trimming, like also nicks and tears. Yeah.
I mean, I've had printers where they used our books as packing material. Like they would shove our books into the corners of the boxes, into the space. So the rest of it, and I'm looking at the box. I take a picture of it. I'm like, who on earth do you have on the line that thinks this is a good idea?
That's horrible.
Like there's other things that you can use for that.
Yeah, styrofoam, paper, newspaper, just stuff anything in there except the book, except the comic.
Even if it was like excess of what they had printed of our own
Yeah.
comics, and they just kind of stuffed them in or whatever. And it was like, oh, don't worry, it doesn't affect what you paid for. But to actually
That's
take
a
it out
bad
of
look.
what you
Yeah.
paid for and then stuff
Mm.
it into the
That's horrible.
like, it's insane. So like
Yeah.
there's all kinds of, I got every printer horror story I think that there is to tell. But I wouldn't have to deal with that. And the people that ordered with us wouldn't have to deal with that either. They wouldn't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that I've had to deal with over the years.
Yeah.
Even there's been some crowd funds where I've received the books and they're not printed properly. They're not either trimmed properly, or there's pixelation because they accepted files that were low resolution,
Oh
and they
man. Yeah.
didn't give the person a heads up and say, hey, look, these aren't printable files. You have to make sure you're sending us high
High
resolution
res.
files. And I get the book as a crowdfund backer, and I'm like, oh man. So not only did the campaign people, the project people mess up, because it is their responsibility too, but any good printer should give you a heads up. And that's like a red flag
Mm.
of the highest order, where they would see it and then go, look, these files are completely wrong. You have
Mm.
to send us the right ones, and then we'll go to print. But some printers are like, oh, whatever, you sent it.
It's their responsibility. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that to people either.
Mm.
If they send something through and it's not formatted correctly, it's not high res, I'll let them know, hey, look, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then send it back. So even on that level, it'd be me looking out for the project
That's awesome.
creator.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of little things. I'm gonna do my best to navigate those waters as a printer, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting first couple of months working out any of the kinks. And I'd say probably about like 3 or 4 months of doing this, I'll have it
Nice.
nailed down to a science.
Awesome. And I wanted to touch on something really quick that you mentioned. You said that you brought on creators to in the alternate line that you thought were going to last for a long time, and then some
Yeah.
of them just fell off. And there's really no way of knowing who's going to last and who isn't, is there? Or is there
No.
something that you've?
Yeah.
Because I've
No.
seen that people come in with all kinds of energy, and then they say the right things, and then just
Yeah.
disappear.
I mean, I've had people where, they'd be running a campaign for their book, and I'm like, let me help you out. Come on the alternate channel, let's promote. Come on my channel, let's promote the book. Let's get more people to pay attention to it. And they'd be irritated by that. And I'm like, I'm
Oh,
trying to
cool.
help you. That's the whole point of why you're here, really, at
Mm,
Alterna, is that you would maybe think I could help you out with whatever it is you think you would need helping with. If you think
mm,
like, no, I got it, I could do this, I could self-publish, I could do 100%, and many people really can't, and they're great at it, which is fantastic. I don't think anyone needs me. I think you can do whatever it is I'm doing or others are doing, as long as you've got the mindset, the work ethic, and you
mm.
apply yourself. But if you want to find that there's strength in numbers, that's the whole point of being here. So if you're getting published by me and I'm offering to help you out, and that pisses you off, I don't know. I would be more pissed off if I was a creator and the publisher didn't want to help me out.
Yeah, that's
So
insane. Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of different creators over the years. And again, I don't know if that's the real reason. I don't know if there was some other reason. I don't know if it's like the politics of comics. I don't know if just, they
People just want an easy ride, I think. They just
I
want
don't know.
everything handed
Yeah.
to them.
And it's a shame because there's some creators that I parted ways with, and we're still on great terms, and I
Yeah.
wish them the best, and we still back each other's books, we still will talk, and then there's other creators where, and this is unfortunately the vast majority, where before I know it, like, I'm unfollowed on social media and they don't want to talk to me anymore, and it's a big weird like emotional mess, and it doesn't have
Mm,
to be. A lot of the times too, when I would cancel a book, I would let them know, look, I'm not making any money on the book, which means you're not making any money on the book.
mm,
We've been doing this for 6 issues or whatever it may be. You really have to consider, is this something that's okay for you? Because I don't want anyone, and myself included, to go broke or homeless. And I've been on the verge of homelessness from a
mm.
couple different bad decisions with creators. And it's really rough when you stare at it and go, I'm just making comics. no one should have to face that kind of decision and that like gut-wrenching kind of pain and hitting rock bottom just because you want to make a comic book. So I'm telling these guys, like, it's not like you're not talented, it's not like you're not good, and it's not like someone else maybe will help you to succeed where I can't help you to do that. It's just right now this decision is being made because of the situation at hand. It has nothing. It's not a personal thing. It's I mean, if anything, I always wish them the best. Even if they hate my guts, I still wish them the best and still hope that their book does well, because that means that people are reading and enjoying comics. I never look at it and be like, oh, that person's having success, you know, and they left. You know, I want to see that happen. But unfortunately, like, that's not usually what happens. Usually what happens is they stop making comics entirely, or they disappear off of social media. They don't even make a comic anymore in any way, shape, or form. And the readers are just kind of like, what the hell? You
Burned
know,
out,
yeah, like, what happened to this guy? And that happens more often than not, especially over the 19 years I've been doing this. I've seen that happen a lot.
And also just and also just one more question to wrap this segment up. Like, are you taking or are you looking to get any more creators onto the alternative line, or are you content with what you have now?
Yeah, right now, no. Right now, I'm very content with what I have. If the dynamics of things change, if I find that there are a lot of creators out there that, because that's the thing too, right? We're seeing a lot of tools at our disposal to take control of what we want to do. So if you want to be a self-publisher, most people now can just go do that. And you know, maybe it takes 2 or 3 books, maybe it takes 2 or 3 years, but you could become pretty proficient with that. So you don't need a publisher. You know, you can have access to a printer. You can have access to other people who, like, I'm always sharing different insights about how to make comics, and so are other creators. You know, like, most comic creators are very open to kind of like what they do, and you can learn a lot like that and just kind of do your own thing. So I don't really view it that I'm in a rush to be looking for new talent again, because there's so many people out there that the attitude that I would want them to have, most likely they're already doing everything anyway, and they wouldn't need me. You know, so I'd be better off, like, if they wanted to still get the book printed with me, they could do that. Or if they wanted to, like, hire me as a consult or an editor or something, you know, maybe I'll have time and I can open up to do that. But as like a publisher, it's kind of like, I think publishing on that scale is kind of dying out. You know, because we're so able now to do what we need to do. Yeah. You know, you don't need to have to answer to anybody. You maybe need a fresh set of eyes that you trust. But even then, like, a lot of people are making great connections and networking and making actual friends too, that they can trust the opinion of and respect the opinion of. So you really wouldn't need like a it's a different system than it even was 19 years ago when I started. So that's the biggest reason I'm not in a rush to try to get new talent or whatever. I'm very happy with who we have, and I want to try to keep growing those guys and working with them and doing my own thing as well, because I have other stories too than King Cryptid that I
because I would also think that, like, working on everybody else's IP would interfere with yours. Like, you have, and I think what you're doing right now is great. You're just focusing on King Cryptid, working with Blood Realm, doing that crossover event. Is a good idea. I think where you guys are at, I think it's just perfectly fine. No?
Yeah, I think so too. Because I'm not trying to. That's the thing is we don't distribute anymore into the comic shops. We haven't done that since 2020 of April, and we had left Diamond at that time. Diamond, of course, is now going through a lot of things and is no more. But we left Diamond before even DC left Diamond. And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall for a few years when they were dropping the ball in a lot of different ways. So it's kind of like this thing where I had this mindset that we were on the playing field of, like, we really need to kind of compete with other publishers that were going through the big distribution pipeline. And then it hit me last year that I'm like, we don't go through those pipelines. So why would I think that we should be competing with them to try to get that market share, because
Mm.
comic shops don't want our books. Like largely, like when I try to give them a better deal than what they would have got with Diamond,
They still say.
they just kind of go, "Oh, cool," and they never order anything, And so I just gave up on that avenue. There
Mm.
are some shops that will order and find us, and some customers that will go to shops and let them know about us, and then those shops will take the initiative. But most of the shops, like we used to sell to like 200 stores individually, like directly, and now we only sell maybe like 8 to 10, because most of the shops just they don't really care to keep up with a system that's outside of the system they usually use. So it makes no sense to keep hunting them down, doing that. A lot of the shops want to do consignment. A lot of people, my experience anyway, is this, and I've heard this from a lot of others as well. Most of the time you do consignment, you might as well just give the book away for free,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to keep track of the sales. And then if you want to get that book back that didn't sell, good luck. It's probably going to be destroyed. So you might as well just give it to free and be like, here you go. Hope it sells, because consignment for the most part is going to be this very strange way to do business with independent shop owners. It's not going to be a book that they care sells, because they don't have anything invested in it. Because if they're not paying for it, they go, oh, it's just a free book. Who cares? It sells, great. It doesn't, who cares? I'm not going to put it out there. I'm not going to, display it. Most shops are like that. There are some that are not, but most are like that. So it just made no sense to just kind of do that, waste all that time, waste all that money, all that energy, and for what? So I'd rather just kind of sell directly to the readers that we have, and it continues to grow through word of mouth. And
It
that's fine by
continues to
me.
be the best business model to the moment. No, you just work directly with the reader, and they tell you what if they want it, and then the numbers
Yeah.
speak for themselves in that case. No, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how a lot of indie creators are doing things too now, because again, there's a lot of tools at our disposal that we didn't have before. It's not 1988 and you have to really hope you get picked up by somebody, or that, you get your big break or whatever. You can make your own big break largely
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. So
Exactly.
it's nothing where, yeah. And I appreciate some people are like, yeah, well, it really matters because you have a good eye for curating content and things like that. And I appreciate that. But at the
I
same
believe that too.
time,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, like what I was talking about before with a lot of creators, I'd say probably 5% of the creators I've published over the 19 years that I could really say that's a great book, that's a good person, and I never had a problem with them. And I could
Oh.
probably say like 60% I had like near catastrophic problems with. So it really, I mean, when we used to have books and previews, there'd be creators that were like, oh, I was supposed to tell people about that. And I'm like, you made a comic. Why?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
now
Why
it's
would
in
you not?
previews to go to stores. And you didn't tell anyone about that? Like
Man,
it's kind of crazy, so there's a lot of horror stories over the years, and like I'm not perfect either, so like I've learned a lot over the years too. But what I've learned, I've told the guys I publish, and I'm like, okay, this is what worked for me, this is what didn't. You might have a different experience, but if you're having any difficulty, try the things that worked for me, and maybe you have success. At the very least, you could say, Pete, I tried it and it didn't work, and just
yeah.
kind of rub it in my face, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome stuff, man. And you spoke also about like maybe having books always in stock. And here's just a question though, like, is it possible to like do reprints of old issues of it came out on a Wednesday? Because I know
No.
you
Yeah.
have them. You're not doing those ever again.
Well, we are continuing the series, but I'm not reprinting issues of the
Okay,
series because
because I know
there's
that was
rights
one of
issues
the.
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that was one of the issues. Like that's the one comic that you would never reprint of. Once they're sold out, they're sold out, and you're still
Yeah.
continuing with that. Okay,
Yeah, because that's like a rights issue sort of thing.
okay, okay.
So people give us like, it's kind of like they loan out the rights just for that issue, just for that printing, and then
Oh
that's
wow.
it. Because what happens is a lot of the time, an issue will go to print, and then months down the road, they get their rights immediately reverted back to them. and then they can take that and publish it in another anthology, and maybe that anthology isn't too keen on that book being reprinted, or maybe that anthology piece was actually part of a larger series that now just got picked up at another publisher that wants exclusive rights to that series. So even though it was pre-published, because you can't do anything, like if they're a decent publisher, they won't retroactively instill rights ownership on previous publications. If any publisher ever says the stuff you published before, we own that too, run.
That doesn't work.
But and some will try, but if they do that, run, just run away. But so they won't go after the stuff that was previously published, but they'll say, if this gets published again with a new printing, that violates the current contract we have with you. So I don't want to hurt any creators that are potentially in that scenario. So that's why it never gets printed again. And it'll stay that way. But we'll still continue the series. Like I've got enough stories for issues 22 and 23. And what's exciting again about this is that, I don't have to sit there and accumulatively wait and see how things go. We can literally just do a pre-order and do a very small campaign, $500 goal, and just say, okay, who wants to order the newest issues of this series? It doesn't have to be like some $5,000 afford the big print run kind of a thing. Worry about cancellation, all of that kind of stuff. It could literally be this: here's the book, we can get this made, we can get it made faster because it's done, and we own the printer. So we can just start printing stuff as soon as orders come in. So it's a very different dynamic. Like, even though it takes longer for the book to get made once the printer gets started, the fulfillment time would be a lot shorter on books that are already done, especially. And that's a huge thing.
Is this going to affect like any campaigns currently running, or just future campaigns from a set time on forward? So, like, for example, I think you're currently doing King Cryptid 10 through 13.
Yeah, so this is how I'll be printing it. Yeah, I'll be printing it like this, and then we'll be printing Blood Realm 15 to 18 like this as well. Blood Realm 15 to 18 will technically be the first alternative books ever printed this way.
Nice.
And again, like, the paper stock is going to be near identical. The print quality will be better. And then also the cover stock will be identical, because the printer that we're using, the local commercial printer, matched the exact paper stock we were using. So if people didn't even realize we were doing this in-house, when they get the books, they're probably not going to realize there's a difference at all, other than they'll notice, hey, the ink doesn't get off on my fingers this time. The ink's not, rubbing off. That's interesting, and they'll probably think like we upgraded the printer, but we actually brought everything in-house. So it's going to be kind of interesting. But yeah, though, to only the most like discerning eyes, I think, will notice there's a difference, and hopefully if they do, they'll notice that there's a good difference.
Definitely. And are there any plans for going into digital printing at all, or is that nothing that you're
this is technically digital. This is technically digital printing.
Okay. Well, I was referring to I guess in that case I'm referring to like the glossy paper, or were you?
Oh, you mean like upgrading paper stocks? Probably not. Only because every other printer can do that anyway. And unless I see that there is not just a demand for that, but an incredible slowdown on the newsprint printing, then I'll consider it. Like, if I have to pivot to that, because again, like, I'm not thinking about this stuff necessarily as like a print shop that needs to meet the demands of a print client. It's more like, these are the kinds of books that we're going to do at Alterna. If this is what you would like your book to look like too. And again, it's just the saddle stitch. So it's just a stapled comic. It's just the mini comic size and the standard comic size. So it's just 2 sizes available. It's that newsprint paper and it's that cover stock. So if you want that, then you can go through with us and get the book at a really great price, and essentially, piggyback onto what we're doing and get your book done that way. And I think there's a lot of people, there's probably more than enough people that want to get their stuff done that way, that I don't have to necessarily worry about upgrading paper stocks. Yeah,
definitely. Because I've been promoting this idea since I've heard about it, and I think that it's a great alternative for creators to offer like a cheaper entry level comic, at a newsprint with newsprint paper versus like a glossy paper type finish, which would be considered like a more premium type thing, though. So I think it would be a good way to get in people with a cheaper price, though.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Even if a creator generally prints, like, let's say they can print a lot of books and sell a lot of books, so they print like 10,000 copies, and they're like, why would I need this? This would be crazy. They're only doing 200. I need to print way more. Well, you could still do like 100 and have it as like a limited edition version of the book, instead of variant covers, a variant interior. So
yeah,
you
that's
could
what I was
still,
thinking. You can think like
yeah,
a newsprint, limited edition newsprint, and then yeah,
yeah,
you can market it either way. And I think it's great. I
absolutely.
think if you learn how to package it nicely, I think people will dig it. And I'm actually very interested in doing this for my comic. And I had a few questions like, normally with King Cryptid, with Blood Realm, the coloring is all like flatter, a little bit, not as it doesn't have like all the bells and whistles with today's colorist does. Will that affect either way, like if you print
Not
your
really.
comics in color?
No, it
So
would always
everything
be
can translate well.
slightly, yeah, it would always be slightly muted because the paper stock absorbs more ink,
It's yeah, yeah.
and it's not as white. So you don't have that high contrast, and you don't have like that the coating that would be on the page that would
Mm,
enable the ink to kind of have maybe some more effects that pop in a certain way. But if you keep your colors with 220 as the total ink coverage in mind, you could have
yeah.
up to 400. So you got CMYK, and each of those things could be up to 100. So if you have all of those, and you shouldn't do it even if you're printing on a premium paper stock, but if you have all of those colors maxed out, you'd have 400 total ink coverage. If you have it on newsprint, or really honestly any paper stock, it's a good rule of thumb to have it around 220 for newsprint, 220, 200. That range is good. No part of the page, if you click on like the color picker kind of a thing with like Photoshop, no
Hmm.
part of the page should read higher than that when you add those numbers up. And if everything I just said is to someone is like, I don't know what the hell he just said, you need to research it before you even consider going into print for your book.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
to a colorist. If the colorist doesn't know what the hell a total ink coverage is, or CMYK, or get a different colorist.
This is
You
why I go to
really,
colorists, because there's a lot of technical stuff that I have no
yeah,
understanding of, but then they'll have it print ready. Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So you need a colorist that understands that, and knows what they're dealing with. But you can print a whole wide variety of stuff. Just be aware that it's going to be a bit more muted,
Hmm.
and you just have to prepare yourself for that and adjust the eye, I guess. But it'll still do gradients. It'll still do any kinds of colors you can replicate with CMYK and a
Yeah.
premium paper stock. It'll still do all of that. It'll just look different. Because you know how even if you print on like premium matte paper, it looks different than if you print on glossy. And then if you
Yeah.
print on glossy, it looks different than if you put a UV coating on the glossy.
Mm.
Like some people will get their covers UV coated, and it like really pops and shines. Like that's a different look, but it's still printed the same way. So it just depends on like what kind of effect are you looking for. Now, some people might really be looking for a more muted effect because they're really tired of the glare and the garish kind of
Yeah.
colorization on like this bright white paper.
Yeah.
And then this is where it'd be perfect for you.
Mm. No, yeah, I enjoy it. I like it, but that newsprint, like it hits you in the feels. Like if you, I
Yeah,
read King Cryptid, and it just hits me, man. Like this is good. It's good comic reading. Good. It's a good experience reading it on newsprint, and I think everybody should get in on that though.
yeah, even like the feel of the page too, it's
Yeah,
different.
that,
The whole
that
process of it.
texture. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's such a different experience. It all adds to it.
Definitely. And here you have a tier. It says $25 for shipping. So this is like the person buying this would give you their comic,
Yep.
and then you will format it, and then they'll get the small mini comic that you showed us, and the standard size.
Yeah, so like if you gave me Ominus, you format the files, to the 6.625 by 10.25. You add some bleed in there. Like all the format specs are actually on the campaign, and they'll also be on the ordering site when that's up and going around like the late June. And then you would also size separately the smaller mini comic, and then we would print the mini comic, and we would print. We're essentially printing a proof of each for you, but you would get it, and it would be like this one and done copy of what you have, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can sell it as a unique item. You can keep it for reference if you want to get a larger print run, and you want to be like, well, before I commit, let me see what will this look like. And then you could do that. So yeah, this is the only time I'm offering to combine them, because otherwise normally a proof copy would be 25 each.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like $25 for two, like essentially two proofs to get it finished in your hand like that is a super like inexpensive deal. Like, I mean, get in on that, folks. That's a great tier right there. And yeah, great stuff. And then this one, for example, it says $10. This is like a sample of with King Cryptid material, I think. Is that
so? What this is it has King Cryptid on the front, and King Cryptid wants you to make comics, is what it says. But that's the cover. But then on the inside covers, we have a pricing table that's very similar to the one that's on the campaign, both for the mini comics in full color and black and white, and then the standard comics for full color and black and white. And then on the back cover would be information on how to file, format everything, and like a little bit of a template and understanding that kind of stuff, just like a quick reference chart on the back cover. And on the interior pages, it'll be newsprint. It'll be one page from each Alterna book that we have. So this way you can see, because we have all kinds of different styles at Alterna, and you can see, some are black and white, some are more modern coloring, some are more cartoony, some have bolder coloring, some have more muted coloring. And this way you can get a good idea of maybe what your book would look like, because your book might fit a certain style. So that's what the interior would look like. It would essentially be a sample pack of various. It'd be closer to like what I had printed, but in draft mode when I did this kind of book, and just printing. Like the way that like there's all kinds of different, you got Unit 44 here, Tinseltown. It came out on a Wednesday, Red Koi. It'd be more similar to this sort of thing, but varied with one page from each title that we have. Yeah. So you get to see, because you could see there's so many different styles here being represented, and you would get to see in that format both the standard size and the mini size what that stuff looks like. And then you can probably gauge, okay, I think I can print like this because my style is very similar to this kind of book, and I like the way that it's printed. So that's a good way and an inexpensive way to do it. But I mean, it'd be really cool if you got, at least for me, I would probably get at least the $25 one where you get the one of your own. That'd be kind of fun to see. How does that come out?
I'm gonna definitely get in on this. And because I'm going to launch a campaign June 26th. I don't know like how time is going to overlap with my campaign and this, because if this, for example, like this funds and you have in 30 days you reach your funding goal, does this go into storefront mode? And
so this is that's a good question. So I already have the standard printer, and we unlock the stretch goal, the mini goal for the mini comic printer, and that's going to come next week. If we reach the 10,000 mark, which at this point we're definitely we got 31 days left. We're only like 1,500 away. The $10,000 mark, I get like the stack cutter, the manual paper creaser, and I get all kinds of different things to assemble this stuff in a quicker fashion. Now, that is, to me, inevitable. I think we're absolutely going to reach that.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not we reach the $15,000 mark, everything past that mark is just going to help speed things up. So the next mini goal after that, the fourth one, would be the automatic paper machine, folding machine. And that would really help move things along quicker. But it's not something that I necessarily need. It would just increase the folding time, or decrease the folding time that I would have to do with the manual paper creaser. The manual paper creaser, it kind of would speed things up about 4 times of what I could just do just folding a sheet of paper. And then the automatic paper folding machine would probably increase that 10 to 20 times depending on the project. So it's a whole different kind of metric in terms of saving time. But that's if we get to, I think, 12,500. If we get to 15,000, it unlocks all the paper and ink and replacement parts and like a little bit extra in case a machine breaks. It unlocks all of that. There's no worries. 15,000 covers everything for the first year, and then it should be self-sustaining after that. If we raise more than that, there's stretch goals to unlock other things. Now, if we don't reach anything past 10,000, let's say we hit 10,000 and it falls flat on its face. Basically, I can still do everything I need to do. I can still do everything and put books together and all of that. If it fell flat on its face today, it would take more time, maybe like an extra 2 months or 3 months for me to get everything together. But honestly, I don't think that's happening. And even if it did, if no one backed the FundMyComic at this point anymore for the next 31 days, strangely enough, no one backs it, right? Which is weird.
Yeah. No, yeah, super weird.
I would open up a campaign on like Indiegogo and on Kickstarter, and I would put it for whatever else we needed. Okay. So there's still like contingency plans at play to kind of get to that 15, because I really want to get to the 15. So even if if we stalled out at like 12,000 on here, I would open up another campaign for $3,000 to get that last remaining stretch, because I really want to get everything so I don't have to worry about stuff for that first year. And I know that there's some people out there that are probably like, yeah, I like FundMyComic, but I'd rather back on Indiegogo. I'd rather back on Kickstarter. I know that there's people out there that have their feelings about all the platforms. Yeah. So, if we reach the goal on here, fantastic. I hope we do. And if we don't, I have other plans to back up, making sure that we do reach that goal. But the vouchers, whether you purchase them here or if I open up another campaign on another platform, those don't expire. So if you were to get like $100 voucher for your print run, that you can print in a year or 2 or 3, it doesn't expire. You're going to basically get what's the equivalent of, they're called vouchers on here, but you're basically going to get like a gift card towards your printing. So if you backed like 3 or 4 or 5 vouchers, let's say, some people have wondered, well, what if I got a $50 and a $200 and a $100? Can I combine them and use them on a print run? Instead, what I'll do for you is I'll combine them together. So this way you don't have to worry about managing 4 or 5 different vouchers and worrying about combining things. I'll combine it all for you. You have it in one place, in one gift card / voucher, and that balance will carry over or be used however you want to use it on your print runs. So if your print run only costs $150 and you bought a $200 voucher, you'll have $50 left over, and you can use that for the next whatever you want to do. And that, again, it doesn't expire. So you're mostly, there are some things on this, like the
maybe you can get a t-shirt
card. Yeah. Like all these little, the sample pack. There are some things where you're not necessarily investing in yourself. You're more kind of helping out and investing in me to do this. But most of the perks on the campaign, you're actually kind of prepaying for your printing. And you're investing in yourself. Like I'm helping you to achieve what you want to achieve, but we're helping each other. So that's most of the perks, and that's most of what the campaign is about.
Awesome. That's all. Yeah. Great help. Great customer service with that. It's awesome stuff. And what if, for example, like I got a 36-page book. I want to get 50 copies because I suspect that I might sell 50, but I get like a $50 voucher, but then I end up selling like 100 copies, and then there's like a $50 difference.
Okay, yeah. Well, at that point, you just pay the balance that's due
afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that.
And awesome. Another thing I want to mention, I probably got to mention it on the campaign. When you update on FundMyComic, they kind of kick it out for review, and the campaign goes 404 for a bit, and then they approve it, and then it gets live again. So I didn't update yesterday. I should have done this, but I'm going to do this update. I'll mention it here. I mentioned it on other shows too. If you get a voucher on this campaign, you're locked into the pricing you see on the pricing chart. So even if like you do a print run in 2 years, and let's say all the pricing is like a quarter higher, you're locked into what you paid for when you paid for the voucher.
Sweet.
So yeah, so you'll get that pricing. You just, and either you can contact me or I'll see it afterwards, and I'll see it, and if the pricing did raise, I'll discount and reflect it back and kick back the money to your voucher, your gift card, or give you a refund if I would need to. But you would always get, at the end of the day, you would get the pricing you see here, as long as you've backed the campaign and got a voucher. Now, if you see the campaign and you got a proof, but you didn't get a voucher, and 2 years from now you do a print run, then you're paying whatever the price is at that point in time. But that's why I really hope we can raise as much or more than what I'm looking for, because then I can purchase all the stuff I need, put it in storage, so I can just go to storage and get the paper that I bought a year or two ago at that price, and we can leave the price alone for as long as we possibly can. So yeah, and all the pricing here is all inclusive. So it includes the cover, it includes whatever your interior is with the page count, whether it's full color or black and white. It goes from 8 pages to 48 pages. That's the amount that I feel comfortable printing at and binding, that it'll still come out looking nice. I might be able to do more. That's something that I'm going to experiment with. If I find I could do a 52 and a 56 or a 60 pager, I'll put that pricing when we go live and we have the online portal. But I know I can make a 48 pager looking good and, laying flat and doing all the stuff that a comic should do. And then it's 200 quantity. Some people have asked about, will you do 300? Will you do 400? If you have a campaign and you forgot to just limit it to 200 copies and it's like 225 is what you need, I'll work out something with you. But if you have a campaign and you sold like 500 copies and you're like, Pete, can you do this print run still? I'm going to be like, I got to keep it to 200. And the reason that I say that is because I can't just keep on doing like 500 for them, 500 for them, 500 for them, because people will start to say, hey, you sold 500 of these and he printed 500 for you. How come not 500 for me?
Yeah.
And then before you know it, like I'm not making
like that really
anymore.
quick. Yeah.
I'm not making art anymore. I'm closing Alterna down, and now I'm just printing and I'm miserable. So like let's have the best of everything here. And it's a good idea. Most people need 200 or less in terms of indie creators. And then also, even economically, if you're a creator that's printing like 500 or more, you're probably better off going with a commercial printer for the speed and for the price. But if you're someone who's doing a shorter run of like 200 or 100, you're probably going to stare at like a $4, $5, $6 book to do it at that amount. And instead, you can get it done with us on newsprint, and the book will look great. And you'll have that kind of distinguished, like, wow, you got it done on newsprint? That's kind of cool. You get that kind of vibe going. And maybe you can even sell it for a little less. So if, like we were talking before about limited editions, if someone has their premium book and it's like $20 and it's like a 32 pager or something, and they're getting it all, like all the bells and whistles, and then they get like this newsprint version, maybe they sell it for 10. Like that's huge. That's a big difference for people. You keep it limited. And then you have the chance to get a new readers that feels more comfortable with the $10 price point, and maybe they just like the newsprint too. And then maybe you actually even get both people. You get both sold because you get someone out there who wants it in both, because there's a different experience to be had.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. That's exactly my thought. Because we have collectors, and then some people also like reading. Some people like the newsprint. I like newsprint. And so, like, you see that difference. So from $25 for the first issue versus $5 for the first issue. It's a much smaller risk for a new backer, and we need every tool at our disposal to try to get more people to come on, because, like you're saying, a lot of people have been getting burnt out, and offering your book at a smaller price, I think, is just an excellent solution. So I think this is great.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to get on this, and I have a comic, an IP that I don't normally promote too much. I'm gonna show it if I may.
Oh, it's your channel. Go for
it. Yeah, I was just about to ask your permission for it. And I'm just so respectful of Pete, man, because Pete is the shiznit. But I have an IP. It's called Gino and Shorty, and I think it's sharing it. It's like a very like a Sunday comic type feel that I've because I've loved Sunday comics, and I currently have a 4-issue story that I just mess around with. And thanks to this, I'm really considering like going like a full 22-page floppy with these guys.
Oh yeah,
and doing like a newsprint, because I think newsprint because the colors are not that crazy.
Oh no,
it's just
will
like
be
really,
fine. Yeah,
and I just think it'll look great. And
yeah,
so
I
I'm really
don't have a doubt with this.
I
This
think
will
it'll
look
look
great.
really good.
The only thing that I ever, and this applies to any paper stock that you work with, when people kind of put dark tone against dark tone. So you got a dark blue up against a black, up against like a dark red. You know, and it doesn't matter what paper stock you work with. You really shouldn't do that. But you know, with newsprint, it's going to become even more muddy and less distinct. So you got to lighten the tone that's in the middle.
Blues.
So if you have like a dark blue on one side and then a black here and then like a dark red, you got to lighten up like that middle, that black. You got to turn that into like a gray, or you got to leave that black and lighten up both the blue and the red. You know, you got to make sure that the contrast is there. And that's just something to just be mindful of in general, because I see that a lot of time in modern coloring, is that people kind of forget, like, it's all about clarity and contrast. You know, that's why, like with lettering, you know, black on a white balloon looks great, but if you put red in a black balloon, it's pretty dicey. You know, so it's all that kind of stuff. It's part of its color theory, and the other part of it is also how the paper stock takes to the ink and takes to the coloration. Because there's certain colors you can put together side by side, and this is color theory, that like they'll look different. You can put a certain color next to a different color, and it will visibly look like a completely different color. But if you isolate those colors, they will look like the colors that they're supposed to look like. So you have to be aware of that, obviously, as a colorist. But when you're printing something, you really have to be aware of it because of the paper stock involved.
Definitely. Awesome. Yeah. And in case anybody's curious, I color that. So I'll take a look. I'll go back through that and make the changes. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
But yeah, I'm glad that people are into it, because I can't do this without everyone's support. You know, I'm like right there. It's just out of my reach, but with everybody supporting, we'll get there together. And I think this has the potential to do something great, and hopefully it inspires other people. Maybe, you know, they look at me and go, you know, look at this idiot. I can do it. If he could do it, I could do it.
No way.
You know, that's been my whole life, Elliot. My whole life has been, I hope people point at me and go, look at that idiot. If he can do it, I can do it. You know, so hopefully this inspires others to maybe think like, maybe I can do my own comic.
I was going to ask you also, like, how does it feel like, because this is getting prime exposure on FundMyComic. It's on the front page.
Yeah, they've been great about it. Really,
people
really
have been like, how has that felt, getting that kind of support from the community, from everybody?
Yeah, FundMyComic is so different with that, and that's why I hope it really reaches the goal on here, and I don't have to go to another platform, because they support their creatives in a whole different way than, you know, the non-existent ways that Indiegogo and Kickstarter will. Kickstarter is a little bit better, I hate to say it, in promotion of creators than Indiegogo is. Indiegogo, it kind of seems like, hey, you're using the platform, what else do you want from us? You know, and then sometimes they like demote you, like with the creators that have been shadow banned. Like I've been fortunate enough to not have to experience that, but like Indiegogo is just puzzling. But FundMyComic has been amazing. Like these guys have been promoting not just on their social media, not just on the campaign page, but like Luke has done 2 or 3 shows or something talking about this project at length, and he's backed the campaign too. So it's been great. They've been really awesome.
Awesome stuff. And there's no plans at all for, like, because I'm thinking that, because my first initial reaction when I saw that was like, okay, Pete's going to jump into doing printing. Is there any plans that he might also try to jump into, like, fulfilling also? Is that like you shipping out books to backers? Is that
probably not? Only because, like, there's for me, I cherish the privacy that I get to keep for my backers. And I want them to feel the same way when they use anyone else. So I don't want people to back and maybe they don't like me, and then they back your campaign and go, wait a second, you just gave that dude my address.
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, so I don't want people kind of doing that. And then the other part of it is I just wouldn't have the time, to be perfectly honest. So I don't have any qualms about, like, if you're not in America, you know, are you in Peru or Chile? I
Me?
forget.
Peru.
Yeah, Peru.
Peru.
Okay, I thought
Hmm.
so. So, you know, so if you're in Peru and let's say you've got an American fulfillment center you want me to ship it to and they'll take care of stuff for you. Like I think like
Hmm.
Critical Blast does stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like if
RJ.
you're using them, you know, then and you're like, "Pete, can you ship my order to these guys and they'll take care of it?" Yeah, sure, I could do that. You know, if you want me to ship it to you though in Peru, I could do that too. It's just be aware it's going to be more money on the shipping.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't have any plans to become like a fulfillment center or anything like that. That's a whole other nuts and bolts that I don't want to
No, yeah, yeah. I
get
was
into.
wondering. I was wondering just out of curiosity because I mean that would be like the last thing that would you do just everything at home. Or just you do you make the
Yeah,
comic, you print the comic, if then no
I
fulfillment would
already
be the
have.
last.
Yeah, I'm already doing alternative fulfillment. You know, more than enough to keep
Yeah,
me
yeah.
busy. So, you know, I don't mind printing the comic or whatever. Honestly, some people have said, "Will you print my prose, my novella, my magazine, whatever?" Yeah, as long as it's that size, between 8 to 48 pages, and that size meaning one of the two sizes that are there, and that you have 200 or less, and you're okay with it being with a stapled saddle stitch, and you're not looking for perfect bound or a hardcover or whatever. As long as you're comfortable with the specs that I have here, I don't care necessarily what the content is.
Hmm.
Within reason, if the whole book you want to publish or have me print is like, you know, I wish Peter Simeti would die, I might have to bat an eye at that and be like, this is odd.
Yeah.
But you know, other than that, most people are very reasonable and they'll go through and this is just the thing they want to publish or print, I should say. And yeah, I'll take on that print job. It doesn't have to just be a comic. It could be, you know, a lot of different things. So like you said before, there's all kinds of different ways to use this, especially if you think a bit outside the box. You can make a variety of different things being done relatively affordably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of like newsprint exclusive editions, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or just like a entry level, cheaper price point than the other stuff that you're offering. Yeah, good. Yeah, so it's a lot to there's a lot to do there. You know? It's a lot that you have to be creative with it. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, good.
exactly. And I'm not going to manage the content. I'm only going to manage the filing, you know, in
Hmm.
terms of making sure the formatting is okay and that it's going to print right. That's
Nice.
it, you know. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. I just wanted to comment on the flat thing. I thought it was going crazy because I mean when I started getting a bunch of the comics that I backed, you know, and they're all saddle stitched, and then when I saw
I
that
hate it. Yeah.
bow, I thought I was like, is this something new that because I had stepped out of comics for a while, and I thought, is this the new thing now? Because that's not how I remembered it. I remember it completely laid out flat. You can completely open the book and see
Mhm.
the whole double page spread. And I was like, and then what's this all about? And I
Yeah.
thought for a while that it was well, in part I think it is like also due to like the thickness of the paper, you know, that it might not bend as easy as others,
Yeah,
but
that plays a
even with the
part
smaller
into it,
ones, it was
but
still
yeah,
yeah,
well, for instance, I mean, when I folded, this is all cover stock and I folded, you know, each page, it lays flat. You just
man,
have to
that's
do it right,
beautiful.
you know? Um, so it's not like it is partly the paper. It's not going to be as flat as like a
Yeah,
newsprint book because newsprint's just a thinner paper,
yeah, yeah,
but it should never bow out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. No,
that's
yeah.
something in the production assembly of it was a misstep. Usually what happens is that they fold it. So what you should do is you should print it, then you should fold each piece of paper individually, assemble them in the right order, then staple it with the cover and then trim it. And then that's it. But a lot of the time, what they'll do is they'll print it, they'll assemble it so it's all together, then they'll fold it, staple it, and then they'll trim it. And what you
Mhm.
do with that is it's very different. And you need the proper, like, if you don't have like a pneumatic press that's going to like hydraulically crush this thing with like a ton of force, and you just kind of have a regular system, you're going to have that bowing that occurs there at the spine. And
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be that way. It is an extra step. It might take a little more time, but if you really care about print quality, if you're a print shop and you're making these books, you would want it to look great. And just a little longer. Just let people know. It'll take an extra week. Maybe if you want to charge them, even it'd be an extra, 2 cents a book. It won't be that much more. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah, there's just, when I heard that, oh no, that's impossible. You can't do that no matter what. That's when it really pissed me off, because it's one thing that they can't do it because they don't have the machinery. But it's like, don't tell me it's impossible, because then you're assuming I'm an idiot. And I'm going to tell you it absolutely is possible. And look here, I just did it. Like, it's not impossible. It might take a little bit extra, or you might need a different machine. And I definitely understand the limitations of some shops, or maybe they don't know they can get the machine for $2,000 instead of $10,000, because some of these paper folding machines are very expensive. So the machinery required, it is very expensive. I get that. Like, if you want to have a full-fledged shop. But, if you're going to have a full-fledged shop, you do need this stuff. Like, I'm not even going to be a full-fledged shop, and I'm going to have a variation of these machines, to do it right and to do it as quickly as I can and as efficiently as I can in the space that I have. So that's kind of what it is.
Awesome, man. Sounds great. And then apart from this, you also have your King Cryptid campaign that's currently in demand.
That's correct. Yeah. So
right
now
you have issues 10 through 13.
Yep, it's on Indiegogo, and it's also on the Alterna site. Most people seem to be backing on the Alterna site, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the combined total between both of those sites, between the money raised and the backers.
There it is.
We're at 16,642, and we're at 408 backers. So if you've had a chance to back it, thank you very much. And if you haven't, check the campaign out. You can go to kingcryptid.com and check the series out. Again, it's issues 10 to 13. Issues 1 to 9 are in stock and ready to ship. And again, if you haven't had a chance, and you dig paranormal, ongoing series, adventure, mystery, monsters, all that fun stuff. Especially if you're into like paranormal history, you'll get something extra out of this, because there's all kinds of references to different events that have occurred and
real stuff.
So
that's great.
It's going to be real fun, because right now he's mostly centered in New England, but it's going to be real fun when I get to have him start going to different places around the world and do flashback issues from different time periods. That's going to be cool.
But maybe he can make a stop by Peru.
Oh, you absolutely will. You got the Nazca lines over there. You know?
We got a lot of stuff over here. A lot of serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps it up for us today. I think we dove deep into the whole printing thing. It's a great undertaking, and I couldn't be happier that Pete's doing it. He's been he's the owner of Alterna. He's been doing this for so many years, and so he knows quality. So he knows quality when he sees it. His record is there. His history is there. He's got great IPs, great comics coming out. And so everybody in the chat, please pitch in with what you can on the printing. I'm going to do my share also. I'm going to get this, because I'm going to see how I can incorporate this also into my comic, because the offer, the deal, the opportunity is just too good to pass up. And if you're a creator out there, I sincerely recommend, I hope that you take a look at it also. There's so much to take advantage of here. And so thank you very much, Pete, for giving us your time. It's always a pleasure having you and talking with you about stuff, because so knowledgeable, so positive. Great stuff, man. And so tell us, Pete, other than today and then on X, where can we find you? Like, what do you, because you have your open mic shows, you have comic book radio shows. You can subscribe on youtube.com/Peter Simeti. That's a comic book radio channel. That's what I do most of the time, and that's a show usually takes place around 9:00 Eastern almost every night. And on Wednesdays we have an open mic show usually, and then it's guest interviews and things like that. Sometimes I just have an open line show and I just talk to whoever wants to stop by, and we just talk about whatever, comic related or not sometime.
And on Saturday nights, I usually have like a comic auction. Like I'm auctioning off my comics for my collection because I'm trying to downsize a bit, you know. And so I'll take whatever I've got on my eBay store and I offer it at a discount on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock. And so we just do fun stuff. And then you can find me on there. You can find me on Twitter at Peter Simeti. You can find me on Instagram at Pete Simeti. And that's about it. But yeah, go to alternativecomics.com and discover your next favorite comic. And you can go to kingcryptid.com to see my new series or my current series. And that's issues 10 to 13 currently on Indiegogo. Or you can go to Alterna and back it there. And then newsprintcomics.com will take you to the FundMyComic campaign to print your own comic on newsprint.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And we'll and I have a show for everybody in the chat. I have a show again next week. I think it's Monday or Tuesday. I'll post it in the YouTube channel, and we'll continue promoting other creators and talking about everything indie comics related. And then don't forget that my campaign launches June 26th, Thursday, some Thursdays from now. And we'll have fun and kick it, and then and that's it. That'll pretty much be it for us.
Awesome. And thank you again, Elliot. Appreciate it.
No problem. You're more than welcome. Stop by whenever you want to stop by, even if it's just to hang out and talk. No problem.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And that's it. And with that, we are out. You guys take care. Have a great night. Have a great day. And